whichever one you think it is, it probably isn't. Ever since I started doing this whole YouTube thing, I have seen some pushback whenever I talk about my feelings on one of the 3 bosses from Black Ops 1 Zombies. There hasn't been anything major, just some people disagreeing with my take that out of the 3 bosses, there is one that stands easily above the others as my least favorite to play against. Today is sort of a way to further explain myself and at the same time evaluate my feelings on all 3 of these bosses at once. I promise this isn't an ad read coming, don't start smashing your screen to skip, but before we continue I have something to say. We just passed 1,000 subscribers and this is my first video since that achievement. Thank you everyone who has subscribed. I am thankful that you pressed that little button and decided to join on the journey of this channel. I love to see this little channel grow and it is all owed to you who watch and subscribe. Let's keep pushing, and hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, why not?
Come on, click the button. You know you want to.
Back to the topic of the video though, we are going to rate these bosses based on 5 different categories to give us a final score total for each boss. I need to be abundantly clear here that what I am doing is based on my opinion of these bosses, and 3 of the 5 categories are completely subjective, while only 2 of the 5 are actually objective. I am not here to tell you that you must agree with my take. I am simply putting my take out into the world so you may agree, disagree, or change your mind about these bosses in Black Ops 1. We are talking about the big 3, the Pentagon Thief, George Romero, and the Astronaut. No, I am not counting dogs, Nova Crawlers, monkeys, napalm, shriekers, none of that, because while they are bosses technically, they don't fit in with the category and the criteria that I am talking about with the main 3. My video, my rules, those are the 3 we are comparing today, and so, without further ado, let's start the comparison. First up is following a buzzword that has become increasingly prevalent in the zombies community as of late: aura. In this case, how much aura do these bosses exude while on the playing field? Of course, we will start with the one we first saw in Black Ops 1 and stop to observe the Pentagon Thief in his natural habitat. When he arrives, the map changes state and sends alarms to alert you that something has arrived. The Pentagon Thief will chase you, leaving behind a stream of red numbers. He is capable of ripping your weapon right out of your hands and taking off with it. Everything about this guy is going to put you on edge and alert. There is no free dog round here. You've got to focus up for these rounds and plan for it. The feeling he gives you is fantastic and always welcome. When it comes to aura, the Pentagon Thief has it in spades and he gets a 5, the maximum rating on my scale for this video. Naturally, our next contestant is good old George. What even can be said that hasn't been said already about this man's dripping, oozy, slippery aura? Yummers. Nothing at all, that's what. Okay, you want more? Fine. George chuckles at you as he relentlessly stalks you. The idea to give him a stage light as a weapon is genius for 2 reasons. 1, it simply makes sense as he is and the director. 2, that thing glows far and wide. Through the blizzard, you will see a light approaching and growing stronger each passing moment, and again, when he gets close enough, you can hear him as well. Tick him off and he gets terrifying, which is paired with resonating shouts by him. He, just like the Pentagon Thief, is a 5 on the aura scale, as they both completely fill their roles properly, and on top of that strike fear and unease into the player. Our final contestant is the Astronaut, and just to be clear, we are keeping the cycle for the other categories, so there will be no giveaways based on who is showing up in what order. The Astronaut is 100% fitting for Moon in which he appears. He slowly lumbers around, and when seeing him, you may either totally disregard him or be petrified based on where you happen to cross him. It is this disparity in my feelings that he evokes which brings him below the others on this category and lands him at a 3. He has the highs of a 5 and the lows of a 1, so I'll keep him in the middle. That covers aura. Let's move to the next category. Our next category is an important one for me, and remember, it's my rating, so keep that in mind here. Frequency is up now. How often do you have to deal with these bosses? And for me, less is more. I have never been much of a fan of persistent bosses, as you will see momentarily. The Pentagon Thief replaces a dog-type round on 5, and so he is an infrequent boss that creeps in every so often to chase you. For my money, this is perfect and lands it at a 5. You get plenty of interactions with the Pentagon Thief during a match of 5, but you don't deal with him all game, and you don't get spammed with 15 of them like a certain game would, Black Ops 6! George is there all the time, and if defeated will leave you alone for one full round. Wow. I grow quite tired of this man during matches, and he finds himself with a sad 1 rating. The astronaut is much the same. He can be defeated, but will always return. You can go to Area 51 to avoid him, but that isn't practical and isn't something I am going to count in his benefit, so he too gets a 1 for frequency. I simply do not care for a boss zombie to follow me like a delusional stalker for my entire match of zombies. On to the next! This category is one that will probably be a bit divisive, and that is the difficulty that it takes to deal with these enemies. Due to these being boss zombies, what I would love to see is an enemy that can be strategized against and effectively dealt with without it taking me 3 business days to accomplish. The Pentagon Thief can be planned for and handled with relative ease if you plan properly and either melt him right away, or you sacrifice a weak weapon and follow him by chasing his thieving ass down with your powerful reserve weapon. The Pentagon Thief earns a 4 here. This is a solid taste of difficulty. George is a double-edged sword here, and sadly both edges are very sharp and cause ouchies to the player. The one edge is that he goes aggro if you attack him, and he will sprint after you aggressively. He of course can be managed by getting him into water and dealing with him in there. Only downside to that is that it can be a little more dangerous getting him there if you aren't careful and other zombies are around at the time. The other edge of this sword is that this guy is a behemoth. Bro has 250,000 health for every player in the lobby. 250,000! He takes forever to defeat, and as we just covered in the frequency, he is going to come right back. So you wouldn't do this massive health bar once. Anytime you want to take him down, you get to do this again and again. It isn't so much that it is inherently difficult, it is more that it is frustrating and over the top. There is the VR11 trick, which can be nice, but in that case, you then have to use a precious weapon slot on the reviled VR11. For difficulty, I give George a 2. The astronaut is in many ways like George. If you defeat the astronaut, he will come right back to haunt you again, as we covered before. The difference here is that the astronaut in most cases will have significantly less health than George would. The astronaut has 4 times the health of a regular zombie, which is then multiplied by the number of players in the lobby. For the most part, in your average match of Moon, you will find the astronaut is easy to take out and doesn't have much health. It is only once you start getting into the really deep rounds where he would start to become a beefy boy. The thing here is that the astronaut has no aggro mechanic and will always be a slow, lumbering presence, which means you can avoid him very easily and freely use any weapon without fear of sparking an aggro mechanic. When it comes to difficulty, he is mostly easy and again only gets challenging much later in a match, so the astronaut is getting a 4 here. When it comes to fighting these bosses, a big question is why would you do it? What is the reward for doing so? Is it a worthwhile reward for the effort you're putting in? The Pentagon Thief, if he is defeated after stealing a weapon, will drop a max ammo and then return that stolen weapon to the player, so this is fine and functions basically like a normal dog round would at the end. However, if the Pentagon Thief is defeated before he can steal any weapons, then he still drops the max ammo, but also drops a rare bonfire sale. This functions like a fire sale, but for Pack-a-Punch, making Pack-a-Punch cost only 1,000 points. On paper, this is a great reward, however, within Black Ops 1, there is only a singular Pack-a-Punch that costs 5,000 points normally, and nothing after that. There's nothing else you can do. It is easy to rack up points in these games, and 99% of players will not be struggling to afford Pack-a-Punch. Plus, if you defeat the Pentagon Thief before he steals a weapon, there's a pretty decent chance that you just used a Pack-a-Punched weapon, which means you only need 1, maybe 2 more guns to Pack-a-Punch. The value isn't really there in most cases, but it can be useful once in the very early game, so this is going to be a 2. George chose to spice things up with the rewards department and has 2 branches just like the Pentagon Thief. One branch is to defeat him normally. The other branch is defeating him after having completed the Easter egg. On that first branch, the rewards are going to be a death machine drop and a free perk bottle. In any instance where an older game allows you to gain access to more than 4 perks, that is an immediate win scenario as you normally can't do so. If you're beating him after the Easter egg for that second branch, you are still given the free perk, but instead of the death machine, you are given a temporary Wonder Waff. If this was a permanent Wonder Waff, then it would absolutely be perfect rewards. As it stands, I wouldn't call it perfect, but having a method that can be repeated to get more than the base 4 perks is undeniably strong and great, which means George still gets a 5 for his rewards. The astronaut is quite different in his method of rewarding players, so when you eliminate the astronaut, you get 50 points. Sorry, you might not have heard me. When you eliminate the astronaut, you get 50 points. You give me 50 points, and I give you just 1. Okay, all of this so far has been well and good, but we need to tie it together with the most hardcore factual truth of each of these boss enemies. How fun are they to play against? So this is sort of an amalgamation of all the other elements into this last rating, which will lead us to our final totals. The Pentagon Thief is a frightening experience at first, but grows more understandable as you learn more. He becomes quite approachable, but is always something that you have to plan for. He looks great, he has a unique mechanic that suits his design, and in most cases he is fun to engage with, which grants him a 4. George. Good old George. He grants great rewards, but I truly don't enjoy engaging with him, whether I am directly chewing on his health bar or indirectly trying to play around him. He only gets a 2 here. The astronaut is in a bit of an awkward position. He is always slow and lumbering, which means in many cases he isn't much of a threat, but on the other hand, he is always being a little weirdo following you around. He also can have random unlucky moments where he pops up around a corner or is waiting for you to return, like here in this old clip of mine.
What the fuck? Oh, I'm dying. Ryan, where did you go? I need you to come up here and beat this shit out of this guy.
I just lost my speed cola.
The fact that he can steal your perk if he hits you is kind of annoying as well. I believe the teleporting is enough, but that's just me. All of this is assisted though that again he can relatively easily be avoided, and if you wish to, he can temporarily be removed without much trouble. So he gets a very middle of the road 3. And that leaves us with the summary of this, so let's compare our totals. Our lowest rated is the astronaut with a lowly 12. I will give my closing thoughts after all these scores, so let's continue. George is next with a 15, and the Pentagon Thief is, for my money, the best Black Ops 1 boss to engage with at 20 points. Looking at that may throw some people off, and they may be clamoring that George is the best. But just you wait, I am not quite done yet, because even though I look at these numbers which I came up with, I disagree with the answer, just like you might be at home there. However, don't get your hopes up, because I'm going to shatter your world. For me, I'm going to keep the Pentagon Thief on top, but it is the astronaut and George that I flip in my heart. The scores say Pentagon Thief, George, and then the astronaut. But my heart says Pentagon Thief, the astronaut, and then George last. Granted, I want you to remember that even I, from a more honest point of evaluation, can say that George is a more well-designed and engaging boss than the astronaut. But at the same time, George is much more annoying to me, and that is where I draw the line. So up to this point, everything I've said about the Pentagon Thief remains true. He has aura, he is fun to fight, he is manageable and doesn't bother you too often. His weakest aspect is the rewards he gives you. Overall, the Pentagon Thief is superb. Now, let's take a look at what is my number 2 in my heart, even if the numbers don't reflect that. The astronaut is not as thrilling of a boss. He kind of vibes, and as long as you pay attention, he won't really cause you trouble ever. He doesn't reward you by dropping any power-ups or anything, but the reward for defeating a boss like the astronaut, or George for that matter, is that the enemy is then out of your mind for a while. When I play Moon, I will often delete the astronaut as he pops up simply because I don't want to deal with him. He is pretty easy to take out, and so I do that quickly, then I can do my own thing for a little bit. That is a decent enough reward for me. I just wish he would stay away longer. When it comes to George, he is such a massive boulder blocking your path, not in terms of his size, but in terms of his health bar. Of course, getting the free perk and then the death machine or wonder-off is great, but after slowly working through all of his health, I don't even feel that rewarded anymore. Much like the astronaut, my main motivation for wanting to defeat George is so that I can train in peace. But he has so much health that it becomes absurd to do that throughout the match, and so he remains as something you have to constantly dodge and constantly be aware of and constantly avoid accidentally sparking his aggro. I do not like the process that is engaging with George. He does wonders for the map and the atmosphere there, but for me, that is where his contribution ends and his annoyance begins. I don't want this to come across as I hate George or that you should too. He is simply an enemy design that I don't jive with. I recognize his merit, but it isn't something I pull much joy from outside of the novelty of his existence. Call of the Dead remains my favorite Black Ops 1 map, and I do wonder how much higher I would place it if there were ways to keep George away longer or forever. But that's it. That is my evaluation and return to the past with Black Ops 1 zombies and their big bosses. Let me know what you think of these 3 bosses and how you would rank them in your opinion. I expect many differing opinions, so let's keep it civil, shall we? Before getting out of here, I wanted to give a little update and heads up to those of you who are dedicated enough to stay this long. I just managed to have an offer accepted for a new home. I will be working through that whole process, as well as, of course, the moving process. I don't know how long this will take or how much time I will have to work on my videos. Do not be alarmed if I don't post as much for a few months here. I'll be busy doing many things, but I am going to return as quickly as I can and as consistently as I can after that fact. Who knows, if it goes smooth enough, there may not really even be a disruption. I'm just giving a heads up in case it does cause some issues. Looking ahead, I am starting to assume that I won't be too available right at the release of the next Black Ops 7 DLC map if it drops when it appears it will. I am recording this on January 11th, so we don't know exactly yet what the plan is for when the map is coming, but we can infer from the season battle pass that it'll be early in February. I'm hoping to be able to talk about it right away, but regardless, all of that is to say I may be a little more absent than normal briefly, but I will return and I will talk about the next Black Ops 7 map, even if it isn't within the first few days of it coming out. I'm going to do my best to be there right away, but if I can't, I will get there eventually, so please, be patient with me. I will be back, and there will be more videos. Now that just about does it. So, if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, or subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and thank you again for 1,000 subscribers. I will see you all in the next one.